Hi, this is Karis.
And this is Charmaine, and this is
Uncommon Humanity. Woo!
Yes, we made a deliberate effort to introduce ourselves
Yes.
because we forgot in the first episode
Too
back.
excited.
Yes, too excited. And we have someone new to introduce to you today.
On our team.
Yes, and it's
Aishu.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going back there?
Great.
Is Raymond teaching you all the hidden stuff?
Yeah, I learned a lot.
They've been setting up non-stop. She's very poor thing the last week. She's been
Oh.
rushing to get us ready here
Oh,
because
yes.
that didn't work out. And then there
Yeah.
were so many changes. We bought a TV that we didn't use.
We'll use soon.
Yeah. Well, she's very funny. I hope we hear more of her voice in the sky as we go along.
Yeah, we'll see her in one of the episodes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Next week. Okay, yeah. Next week's episode. Okay, cool. Yes, okay. What are we up to today, Karis?
I guess we can start off with talking about how life praise and
Oh,
worship.
sorry, I
is.
threw you off. I immediately went to the topic. But yes,
Okay.
okay, yes, let's talk about live worship. Okay, so yeah, so this weekend we just transited back to live worship.
Yeah.
Vaccinated services, vaccinated gatherings with live worship.
Yes, life praise and worship.
Oh my god.
It's been such a long time, I realized. Didn't
Yeah.
realize until we had like a full live
Yeah.
praise and worship and go, wow, it's really been a long time.
Yes.
Feels
I
great.
mean, we've had pockets of it, right? But why is it this time around we're so invested in the? It's partly the feeling that it's like, wow, we're finally opening back up for live worship. Or maybe it's the zone of 52 right now, right? We can
Yeah.
actually be together as a group of
Yes.
50 and not like cannot talk
Be
to you,
groups of
cannot
5
yeah.
and then have to be separated.
Yeah, but man, I was a little bit emotional at this week. The fact that we had live worship was like quite something.
Yeah, the team did a great job. So.
I know
Very
our
nice.
group was very enthusiastic over the corner. Like we during the opening service, we're like standing up, and then the
Clever.
rest of the congregation was like looking. Why are they? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it feels great.
Yeah, and we did a great job. Our director was leading worship this week.
Woo!
Yeah, and now she's here directing us. Yeah, but she did such an amazing job. I heard she
Yes.
really drilled the team
Oh yeah, I
uh,
heard too.
quite hard.
Yeah,
this
they did a
weekend.
great job.
It was
with all
really
the
great.
songs.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I felt so like part of things, and then it was like being able to move, being able to worship. That's like a whole.
Yeah.
I don't think contemporary church can do without the live worship experience.
Without a live atmosphere, just different.
Right, because I think that in-person thing, I know there's a lot being made about the transition to online, right? And I love it. I think it's been really fun for us. I mean, it birthed this thing. But there's something about being together in the same room. And I cannot wait till we can rip off our mask, man. Like, I want to see people's face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear their voice and not have to. Could you repeat?
Oh no.
Isn't it true?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah, but do you enjoy it this
true.
week? The feeling is
Yes.
different, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, then they sang Good Grace. This is very anthem-ish. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to more of that.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
it gets better and we can open up more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we thought today we will talk about culture,
Yes.
engineering culture.
Because we are opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what does
And-
that mean?
And one of the things that we're thinking a lot about is culture and atmosphere for people,
Momentum.
for
yeah.
everyone as we like kind of gather back more, hopefully more in numbers,
Yes.
and
for
what kind
sure.
of culture atmosphere we really want to have.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh my god, it's been nearly 2 years there.
Yeah, close to.
Yeah, close to. Yeah.
Nearing. Yeah. So PC, we should start off with a question,
Okay.
Pastor. Like, what is the difference between, say, like culture of a community and vision of a community?
Yeah, okay, so the simplest answer is vision is what you see of the future, what you hope for, what you're dreaming of, what your, I guess, in some ways you can call your goal as well. But culture is the plan and the system and the stuff that gets you to that vision of the future that you want. Yeah.
But both are connected in a way, right?
Yes, I think both are intrinsically connected. But I think the thing about why culture is so important at this stage is, you can have a lot of dreams, you can have a lot of goals, but if you don't have a culture with which, a plan with which to fulfill it, then it's useless, basically. Yeah. And I think that's really crucial for us right now. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we've been stuck for 1.5 years dreaming about the future. I mean, we've been doing stuff, but it's still stagnant. And so this is really just a really important part, I think, right now of opening up. And I think this is what most organizations or like churches will be struggling with right now, lah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask like why is it important? Like why culture, why momentum is kind of like really important right now?
I think one of the major things is I'm sure all of you right now are feeling the effects of languishing. No matter how hard you try, no matter how driven you are, having to stay still
Yep.
can really kind of kill your acceleration. Because there's a certain part of life, right, that comes from structure and rhythm. Rhythm builds
Yes.
acceleration, it builds momentum, and then you keep going. But we keep going into a start, stop, start, stop. It's like a car being stopped, or being stuck in traffic. Yeah, so I think actually culture building right now for a group of people is very important in terms of helping us to counter languishing. It provides some structure, it provides some forward momentum. Yeah, one very crucial thing.
Yeah, because stagnation really sucks away energy,
Yes, for sure.
drains you in a way, even though you're doing nothing.
Yeah, I know, right? No lah, and then thinking too much lah, especially
Yeah.
younger people, right? Millennials, Gen Z, we're thinking a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I actually really think boomers have weathered this a bit better than us.
True, true.
Yeah, we're a little bit more emo, a little bit struggling, thinking about making big changes in our life. Yeah, so I think now things are opening up. It's time to put the rubber to the road lor, and get where we want to go and do what we've been thinking about lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so why is it important? Okay, so the second reason, right? James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits, right? The book that I referenced when I preached our message at the beginning of this year or last year, habit stacking. Oh my god, was it this year or last year? This 2 years I just blended together. Like, do we know? Was it this year? Oh, it's this year. Okay, so director has just said like I preached that this year. Right. Bye bye goal setting and hello habit
Oh,
stacking.
yes.
Yeah, so he's great. Read that book. But he says this: we don't rise to our highest goals, we fall to the level of our most broken systems. Basically, he's talking about habits, lah. Yeah. But that's the thing, right? We can have a vision, and right now we're very excited to build it, or have been for 2 years. But you need a plan to get there, and you need a culture to get there where you're going. And so, really, culture is the systems of behavior and practices and relationships and the feeling in the room that gets us to that image of who we are, lah.
So
one
PC
day.
culture is a tangible thing, right? It's not just an intangible feeling.
No.
It's
no,
a tangible
culture is a tangible system of attitudes, values,
actions.
habits, actions, relationships. And there's nothing organic about it. That's one thing I've really, really learned. It's not organic, it's not naturally occurring. I mean, yes, it can naturally occur in the negative. If you leave things as they are, somebody is going to be speaking up, somebody is going to be determining the patterns of relationships in a group. And then that becomes your culture, and eventually that becomes your future, no matter what you dream. So if you have a dream, I think it's imperative that you are deliberate about the kind of, in some sense, right, vision is the what, and I think culture is the who. Who do you want to be at the end of that vision and that dream, right? Because you can hit a profit margin, you can grow a church to 100, 1,000, but then will it be a weak church or a strong church? That's determined by your culture.
So PC, what cultures are we building or rebuilding right now in TiVo? Just this season.
Just right now, right? Okay. Yeah, so I think one of the things for sure is strong worship lah. That's been missing for 2 years, and that is the source of a lot of momentum in our community. I feel always has been.
Yeah.
Like, I think, well, I mean, there is something emotional about it, right? The act of worship or being at a concert, the feeling of it bringing people together. I think that's one part. But of course, for you, if you identify as a Christian like us, then for us, it's about engaging with the presence of God and like focusing ourselves to engage with the presence of God.
Yeah.
So for me, it is a spiritual and holistic thing. And I think the missing of that really, it's made it hard for a Christian who's very new to be a part there. And some more, we've had a lot of new Christians come to church the past 1.5 years, especially on the tertiary.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see how they have a deficit in terms of worship and prayer.
Yeah.
They have a lot of reflection,
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
what
of
I wanted to
thoughtfulness.
say.
No, they are great in that way. A lot of reflection,
Done a lot of
thoughtfulness.
reflection.
Yeah, they follow messages really well and are enthusiastic about that thinking, which is great in its own way. I love that. But they are lacking in that something different that comes from that in-person engaging with God.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the atmosphere.
Yeah, being able to be captivated by God
Yeah,
and in that
like
moment.
it gives energy in a way that reflection and thinking doesn't. It moves you to action. I think that's what worship does, or the presence of God does, and the atmosphere in the room does.
Yeah.
It makes you feel a different kind of togetherness. Yeah. So neither is less or more or less important. I think the past 2 years, the great thing is we have been more reflective. Yeah, but I miss that, and I can't wait to get back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other cultures, what other things are we building, Karis?
PC was saying one of it is to like the service to others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big one that we lost also the last 1 or 2. I won't say lost, it's just been held back
Yep.
a lot. Yeah, because I think if you're not the past 1.5 years, you're not on the ops team, you're not doing filming, visuals, you're not doing recording, you're not one of the preachers, then there isn't, say, a whole lot for you to do at TiVo. I mean, unless you're an entry officer lah, which we only have a few or so because
Yeah.
of safety management regulations. So we've lost things like church experience team, which is gonna change to community experience team. I'll explain why in a little while. Usually that's the ministry everybody passes through in our church. We go through a season where you serve other people, you usher, you welcome people, you help to clean up the place and make the experience great for new friends. We don't have that anymore. I mean, we've had community work stuff where we're serving the community, but again, because of regulations, we want to do more, but we have to do it in pockets. And when regulations kick in, we have to cancel an event, or not as many people in church can participate. So that's been really hard, because I actually think that's a huge part of TiVo lah. I mean, one of our mottos is so others can have better, right? And we love to serve others. So that's been a really bit of a downer. And I hope as things open up, we get to go back to that.
Yeah. I think like even in the past 2 years, PC, you were constantly thinking, are there any other ways that our people can
can
serve
love
and
and
love
be
and-
kind. Yeah, because I think one of the biggest cures, I think, to languishing, right, is to stop thinking about yourself and to think about other people, to do something for somebody else. So, and I think anybody who's been in that position, actually, we've weathered this a little bit better. I'm not saying we're not tired, but because we're not kind of stuck in our head constantly and just thinking about me, we just have a little bit more happiness and joy and a bit more strength to get through the day lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, wait, so community experience team, right? So we are going to be changing the name of the church experience team eventually to community experience team. Well, one reason is recently we told the church that we might want to get rid of the word church from church. Oh, yeah, because we don't kind of like what it gets attached to sometimes, to institution, yeah, I think we like the idea of community a little bit more and just really doing the simple things of the gospel lah. Yeah, is one reason. Second reason we might be changing it to community experience team is because we want to get away from the customer service attitude towards church, where people come and they expect certain services to be given to them in order for them to want to be a part of church. And I feel that's never been our church. And I think even more right now, we want to distance from that idea lah. Yeah, I really don't enjoy that, because I think, especially this 1.5 years, I've heard a lot of stuff, especially from friends, right? The frustration of having to navigate all the difficult government regulations and changes. And then people complaining, we want this and we want that, and why isn't the entry done this way? Why isn't it done that way? Why aren't you providing this? Why aren't you live streaming it that way? Why aren't you making it? And I go, and the funny thing is that when I hear it from my friends who are leaders in other churches, like, it's always coming from the people who are not serving. The people who want to be customer service. And I go, that's not the gospel. You don't join a church like it's some country club where I don't know lah. I don't know what they're thinking in their head. What I give money or I come here, therefore you serve me. Yeah, and I had really bad experiences during this 1.5 years or so. Like, I don't know lah. Serving some Christians from other churches too, it was so customer service and frustrating that I was like, this is not what Christianity is. I'm not here to service you. I'm here to serve you as a friend and love you, but I'm not here to service you. And so I think that's one thing I want to deliberately distance from, especially since we're getting a chance now to relaunch the evolution and remake the evolution. I think because we were so big on excellence last time, it gives people the false impression that we're expected, it's expected of us to provide the highest level of services of, I don't know lah, different things in church. And I just go, no, that's not the church I'm building anymore. We're going to do it as a community, and everyone in this community serves each other. Everyone is part of building an experience in our community. This is not a customer service place. Yeah, if that's what you expect from the evolution, bye-bye. Find somewhere else, because we're always going to disappoint you. Yeah, oops, okay. Yeah, talk about culture building. Yeah, okay, let's turn it. So, Karis, let's talk about youth, right? Because youth has been a real struggle this 1.5 years. So why are you looking to rebuild the culture of the youth right now?
I guess one of it is enthusiasm. Yeah, for them to be excited to be here with one another, and also with God and with the whole community. Yeah, because I think because the fact that we have to wear masks make it harder for them to look. I mean, we can see one another, but it's probably just like 1/3 of the face. Yeah. So smiling, engaging with the other person, talking to them, behind the mask is just like there's an additional barrier. Can't help, but yeah. So we're kind of working on that.
Yeah, I think because I feel our culture needs to be seen, to be transmitted. It needs to be felt. It needs to be heard. And I know it seems like such a small piece of material that you put over half your face, right? But it makes all the difference in the world. It lowers the sound in the room.
Oh yeah.
You can see people's eyes, but you can't tell the entire expression of their face. So even with pastoral work, I find it's a challenge, because I feel I miss things more easily if I'm not looking hard enough and I'm not asking for information. Because I can't get how you're feeling via text. I can't catch the twinkle or the twitch in your mouth when you're speaking to me and something is off or something is good. And so I can't affirm that, hey, I see you happy about that thing. Yeah, I think it's also led to a lot of sometimes misunderstandings as well, because you're not seeing each other regularly, right? There's a shorthand that we read of each other versus what we talk about in person. Yeah, so I think, oh my God, I'm looking forward to building culture again. I really am. Yeah, to be fully immersed. You think we'll ever get rid of our masks?
I think it will take some time.
Oh my God, you
more
think so?
time. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's really tough. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Enough lamenting. So what cultures, so let's talk about this. What cultures are we pivoting from? Because we have been saying over and over again, the evolution is evolving and we're about to relaunch. And that means even though we are keeping some DNA from our previous permutation of ourselves, there are some things that we are now leaving behind and progressing to something new. So what are some things you feel that have changed?
Because I think one of it is definitely, I feel our church is very, we're not church.
Ooh, we're pivoting from church to community. Yeah.
Okay, our community. I think one of the things is we really believe in excellence. We've always worked very hard to put up something really of a certain caliber, excellence or level. Be it serving or be it just anything we put on a platform. But I guess over the years, one of it has been that we still want to make sure that anything that we produce is of quality and of our best, but not how do I put this? That we how should I say this more directly, which is we shouldn't faster how to say it.
I also don't know how to say. You're not supposed to call me pastor anymore.
No.
That's
Which is
another
like
thing
the-
that we might be
which is
losing.
like we should be excellent, but okay, maybe we redo this part. It's like we should be excellent, but not not perfection, is it?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
so. But we've always said not perfectionist. I think it's really sometimes so therein lies the problem, right? It is hard. There's sometimes a gap between the culture that you want to do and the culture that you end up producing. Like I think the good parts of excellence we want to keep are that we've always said we want to give God and people our best.
Yeah,
we
like,
show
yeah.
up and be present. But I do think because I was a very perfectionistic individual, very artistic and very perfectionist, that I drove it in a certain direction. And you end up sometimes, even though you do say let's focus on the important versus the impressive, you do end up landing still a little too more impressive than I would like. I mean, I don't regret a lot of what we become. We're very creative and very beautiful for our size. But
Yeah.
but definitely that one is different. I still believe maybe we've managed to get rid of the not so good parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Better, we're cooler and more chill and more relaxed.
Yeah, I do remember a time when we were very intense and
Very intense.
where if
Feedback.
and a very workaholic kind of
Yeah.
it's glamorous to be
Yes.
like working hard, not sleeping, and
Yeah.
just giving your all. If not, don't give it at all. That kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Oh, wow. Yes, I agree. But it's a conundrum right now, right? Because we've been teaching a lot about rest.
Yes. And
But it's
Sabbath.
this tension. I just told her today, right? I'm going to put up 2 slogans in the office thinking about it. One is tough is the only way up, so fight. Yeah, because I think this next stage of our future is going to be a bit of a fight, which I don't mind as long as we got our team. But the other slogan I want to put up, there's a complete contradiction to that, is we're in it for the long game, so rest. Yeah, but I do think greatness lies somewhere between those two things.
Yeah.
I feel it's like 2 contradicting statements, but I feel like they're both true.
It's like a tension, right?
Yeah, it's a tension. You can't be great if you're lazy or too slack or not willing to have a sleepless night. But you also can't be great if you burn out, which I've had a bad experience with. Our team, some of us have had bad experiences with. And now I think hopefully we get to set a tone that works for the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Yes.
that's the big one.
Yes, that's the big one. So excellence is one. What's another thing we're pivoting? I like this one. Authority versus influence is what I call it. Yeah, we're definitely moving. But again, it's been a tricky thing to navigate, which one day maybe we'll talk about in a leadership episode. How to balance being a leader and leading, and being firm and authoritative about what we believe in and where the church is headed, and giving people room and space to develop and to grow and to have their messes and to make their mistakes. It's another weird tension. But the language that we've chosen to use this period to help us transit, because we kind of swung, right? We've been a very controlling church, and we've also, but the last few years, I feel we swung to the other side where we're a little bit too holding too much space for everybody. Yeah, it's a funny thing, right? I think because the leaders, right, we've experienced not having enough space to process, so now we want to give them space to process. But it has also, in some situations, backfired. Yeah, and so now we're just trying to hold that tension again. But the word we're trying to use is we want to be an influence. We want people to want to follow us. We want them to want to be mentored. We want them to want to be a part of this vision and be hungry to learn. And of course, we do want to lead too. Yeah, I don't think being a good leader is just sitting there holding a space, because I think, okay, no, that's being a therapist.
Yeah.
But I think leaders at the end of the day, we do have to lead and we do have to make decisions about vision, and we do have to hold people who have invested more in this church, their opinions of higher value, for example. And so while everyone is important and everyone matters, we have to build a culture where leaders are allowed to lead and allowed to drive the momentum of church. Yeah. So it's one of the things I think we're trying to figure out of how to language that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how to do that well in pastoral
I think
work.
I think like what PC would say about we want to hold space for people, but we also want to build a team where there is a quickness to follow
Yes.
to a certain vision or to a certain direction that we want to go or to want to build. Yeah. Oh.
Okay, we're back.
Yes, live.
Yeah, there was a blackout. The computer slept.
Yeah.
Yes, talk about being easy go with excellence now.
Making space.
Yeah, we didn't crucify Aishu or Raven. We probably would have a long time ago. Right, 15 years ago. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So what were we talking about? We were talking about...
Oh, I was talking about how I think we want to really do that well, which is to hold space for people, but at the same time, to have that receptivity and that quickness to follow if we do set a certain vision, a certain direction that we're going, that the whole team can rally together and just go.
Yeah. And I think the one thing I can say with complete confidence now, after having thought about it and watched ourselves, is I do feel the past couple of years, we have really, really deliberately, constantly made updates and changes to the way we communicate, to the way we involve people in decision making and asking their opinion. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, right, 20 opinions in the church, the leader has to decide. And the top few have to decide, okay, so which things are we going to go for and which are important. And of course, in a self-aware way that we've made sure we've taken care, especially of minority voices or voices that need to be highlighted in our church. I feel that I can say that very confidently as a leader now, that we do that. We have done that really consistently. Yeah, and so I'm also reaching a point right now, right? I'm trying to learn I don't know what Paul Scanlon calls the joy of missing out. You know, like
JOMO.
Yeah, he calls it JOMO. People have fear of missing out, like if they're not pleasing somebody or making someone feel unhappy or they're being excluded by someone. I'm really trying to learn that in my life right now, where it's like I can't please everybody, and we just have to make the best choices we think as a leader are best for the community. I nearly said the word. Okay, yes. So where are we going with this now?
Yes, that's the second
Yeah.
one. I think there's one more,
One more?
which is, I think one thing we've kind of pivoted was to not use the Bible.
Are we gonna talk about that?
Oh no. Okay.
Yes.
Just so to clarify, it's not use the Bible. It's
Yeah.
just not
Not do the very over spiritualize everything and
Yes.
over Bible verse everything.
Yeah.
Like sit someone down and say the Bible says this. But I don't think we've ever really heavily done that. Like I feel like there were seasons where we did that because we felt like we had to. Because I feel right from the get-go in our church, right? We've always been very averse to, can we don't praise God and hallelujah too much, that kind of stuff. I feel lah. So I feel we've gone through seasons where we're trying to fit in with what we thought is supposed to be church culture, successful church culture, and the way to go is to do things a certain way. And I sit very easy in terms of like human problems are human problems. You don't need to, God said this, thus says the Lord. God spoke to me this. Because I think if you need to use that to control people, then something's gone very wrong. Because you're no longer influencing them. You are authoritarian. Control them.
I guess one of the things is like we don't want to do that because I guess as leaders we are meant to kind of direct people to God but not be God.
Yes.
And if we do that, like it becomes very...
It actually puts barriers, I think. Yeah, it becomes very contrived, right?
Yeah.
And could be wrong. I think that's my greatest fear now and apprehension to that. Like, what if I'm wrong? And you attach God's name, the amount of confusion and like the heightened level it takes conflict to is I feel it takes it to a heightened. Yeah, so I just feel, I think ultimately God wants us to engage with Him, truly. and wants us to engage with each other truly. I don't feel the need to use the name of the Lord in vain.
PC, then one more question is just, especially when it comes to pivoting culture, right? Like, as we kind of evolve, then how do we pivot? You know, maybe in our mind or in our heart, we go, we need to change, and we understand that we have to change. But practically speaking, we feel like there is a gap in the way that we lead sometimes. So how do we, how do we do that change well?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, Clement, our number one fan, asked me this actually a few nights ago. He was talking about how when he's leading people, and he feels he needs to say something about our culture or say something about the way we do things here in church. He said he's number one, he's always afraid that he's gonna say it wrongly because we've changed in the way we do things. Like it'll come out too strong. And of course, it's very hard to let go, right, of the way you were brought up. And so then when you're nervous, even more so, even though you know the right thing and you transform, it comes out wrong. Yeah. And I think I was telling him, don't worry too much about it because that is natural. To feel that gap is natural, and to feel that frustration is natural because it's not that you haven't changed. No, I think you have to be very aware, is there something that you haven't changed about? And I think that's one half of the thing. Because I've had moments where I say something on a pulpit, then when I'm with somebody, I revert to my old ways, right, of being defensive or why do I have to answer you or why do I have to explain this to you? But then there's also, so be aware of that. I think if that hasn't happened, then I think it's important to go back and think what's causing that and what do I need to change. But I think there's also a stage where it's you have changed. There's just a gap. You haven't created language to express the change. And that's where sometimes you speak, you feel like you default to old language. But even in the defaulting to old language, I've noticed, right, with myself and with watching the leaders, the tone comes out different because the inside has already changed. So the only thing then you need to do is really to go back sometimes, and when you feel like you stumble over new language, right, to go back and maybe write down what you want to say. And not just think about it, because I think leaders, when we think about it, it just bounces around but there's no conclusion. But when we kind of journal or we write it down or we write down what we want to say, we deliberately force ourselves to create the language, and then from then on we can use it better. Yeah, so I think the gap is natural. It's us transiting from an old wineskin to a new wineskin, to put it in very biblical terms. Yeah, but I do think, at least for our leadership team, I think the insight has changed. I think we're just now trying to figure out the language to express that change.
PC, maybe I can add on, which is like, I think sometimes like pivoting culture is also when we have like a deeper nuance about something. So I guess maybe as leaders, sometimes we find it hard, like when we are interacting with people, right? How much of information do we need to tell? Because like sometimes, so I catch myself caveating a lot. It's like, I say this thing, but okay, just caveat this thing and caveat this thing, okay? So because
oh, that's a good
it's a nuanced
point.
thing. So it's not say we have changed entirely about, let's say, Bible, like authority of Bible. It's just there's a lot of nuance in that authority of Bible. So I need to tell you from A to Z, you know, like not just in the middle. So I think as a leader, I struggle with like, how much do I need to tell you? So the follow-up becomes like, is it a 1 hour follow-up or is it like a 2 hours follow-up?
Oh my God, no, I totally understand what you mean. That's such an interesting point. No, I do catch myself the past few years caveating a lot of things. The more new it is to me and the more I'm workshopping an idea, the more caveats I give. So if you look at my messages, let's say are similar, let's say, okay, productive justice is one message I preached recently that I'm quite happy with. Like the similar message 1.5, 2 years ago, right? I caveat way more because I was workshopping what I believe to be social justice. And then for me to get to the point right now where when I talk about productive justice and what I feel about anger and rage and how we must manage that, like it's way clearer, and I dare to be a lot more prescriptive versus just putting an idea out there. But I think there are some caveats that are important sometimes to messages. Like, for example, when I like the message of forgiveness, for example, I actually think now whenever anyone preaches a message about forgiveness, even if it's the most basic level, you need to caveat it with forgiveness does not mean you allow yourself to continually be abused by somebody, because that's the extreme, right? Yeah, so I do think caveats have its place, but I do think they are also inherent when we are still working out an
Yeah, true.
idea. Yeah, and every time we work it out, I feel
Yeah.
we will caveat.
Yeah, it's like if I can't explain something simply, basically means I haven't understand it well enough, right?
I don't know if I'll go that far. Like, because I'm not sure certain things should be explained simply.
Yeah, true.
I think right now, social media culture, I used to say it's church culture, but I actually think it's just culture. We like to punchline everything and simplify everything to a graphic or a sentence or a few bullet points. And I think it's good for an entry point, but I think people haven't learned that that's an entry point to a topic. It is not the topic. And I think the problem is when we see something on social media, we treat it like it's the whole breadth of argument or yeah. So I feel again is you got to balance those two things. But maybe I have worked out a bit more. I think because recently we're updating curriculum, right? I have realized that no, okay, I do believe in sitting in uncertainty and faith and a nuanced view of the Bible. But we do have to give new Christians some sort of simple framework, right? To work with that.
Yeah.
So we still need to teach them a simple framework how to pray. Like what is engaging with God about and friendship with God. I guess for us right now it's more about covenant than just heaven, hell, sin and all that kind of thing when it comes to talking about salvation and relationship with God. Yeah, we're still working out, but I do think you have to give people a simple starting. Otherwise, it's like so confusing. You don't even know where to start. Yeah, and people will give up in the confusion. Yeah, so I think there's a way. We just have to continually work at it.
Yes.
Yeah, with culture.
Yeah. So PC, moving on is I want to talk about how like we mentioned how culture is very important because it attracts great people and it retains great people as well. And PC, you were the one who said about how great people is attracted to a good community that they can really connect with, a great culture to belong to.
Yeah, I think it's a myth, right, that we need a lot of glitz and stuff to attract people. Or even let's talk about youth right now because we're trying to re-ramp up our youth growth, right? People mistakenly think, I think, that you need lights to hold youth, you need cool clothes to hold youth. Now, all those things are great and they're important. And I think that needs to be who you are rather than a facade that you put on. Yeah, because I think that generally in our church, we enjoy the creative stuff. We enjoy a little bit of fashion. We do, which isn't a whole other thing altogether. Like anyway, so but I do think it's a myth. And I think partly it came out of that whole ramp up of contemporary church the past 20 years, right? Where it was a reaction where people were going, the church is always 50 years behind the world. Like everyone has lights in the church and cool songs and we're still like singing from 100 years ago or we're like and actually now those things are actually fashionable and cool again. Vintage is cool and respecting history is cool. So actually cathedrals are really cool. If we could have a cathedral, I'd be happy to like have that. So it's not inherently actually those things. It's more about, I think people want right now like real connection. And they want like a good group of people with great relationships to belong to, a feeling that they like. Yeah, and I think that's the crucial thing. Because I think if you're using all these things to attract people right now, especially in this day and age, especially in the Singapore context, right, you're going to attract the superficial. You're going to attract people who who don't stay. Once the hype dies down or they get bored with you or something flashier comes along, then bye-bye as well lah. Yeah, so I do think building ourselves on culture and what's important is going to be a real thing that attracts and retains people versus, and it also repel that people, which I like. I mean, because let's be real here, right? If you don't like serving people, and you only like to be served, you're not going to fit well in our church. Yeah. If you don't want to participate, because our church believes everyone participates, then you're really not going to like our church, because you always feel pressured and you always feel like, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. And then, yeah. So I do think it's a good filtration system lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So PC, we talk about how like culture is something tangible, right? It's not intangible things. So how do we teach, especially like the youth or the younger ones, that culture is not rules? Because technically to them
yeah, it's
it's like
system.
it's a to do, it's a rule.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, right? There's no way around it. Like, because culture is behavior, it's practice. It's what you practice, it's what you do, it's your actions, it's your attitudes. So I think no matter what, right, even if you join a culture that you like, you're always going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, but I do think it's important to teach people why we have certain cultures, because that makes a difference versus you're ordering them to follow rules that they don't understand. You need to teach the why and the heart behind it and make them want to learn those cultures. Yeah, but I do think there's a difference. I'm learning now that there's a really huge difference, I think, between teaching culture to millennials and teaching culture to Gen Z. Yeah, so I find that teaching culture to millennials, right? Millennials always want to know what's expected of them. Most of the time. Unless you're a very entitled millennial.
Oh no.
Yeah, but we tend to attract majority of the time pretty good millennials, 80% of the time. And they always want to know, you guys always want to know, I want to know what's expected of me. Because I feel very nervous and uncomfortable when I don't know what's expected of me. I almost want you to tell me what to do first before you tell me why. Yeah, it takes away the confusion and the frustration. It gives me clarity. And the moment you tell me what to do, the nervousness goes away and I will self-explore the why and I'll ask questions and I'll lean in. So that was the way we built church for a very long time, because that's what worked for that generation.
Yeah.
But now Gen Z coming in is a whole other story altogether. They're very outspoken. They have a mind of their own. They don't like rules. They don't like authority. They are mistrusting of authority. And rightfully so, because of the generation they're growing up in and how we raised them to be. We want them to be outspoken the way we weren't. We want them to hold space for themselves the way we didn't hold space for ourselves. So that's who they become lah. Yeah. And then worse is because we did that to them, now they do it back to us. And then we're like, ah! Yeah, but I do find actually you need to flip it with Gen Z. And Gen Z really needs to know why and to be given space. And they then will start to want to flow. I've noticed that is the pattern with the good ones in our church. Yeah, that... Should I give the I should example? Can I talk about you? Do I have your permission to talk about you?
Yes.
Okay, can. Yeah, so when Aishu came in as a youth, right, I would say she's your typical Gen Z. But also way more, she is extroverted. She is really has a mind of her own, which I love about her. I love you very, very much. Yeah. But one of the struggles we used to have, right, when she came in is because she's so opposite to millennials. It's like everything we have to explain why. And like and then we have to be very careful, like we don't force her to too hard that she disappears, because she's great. I mean, right now, guys, she's a youth staff. Thank God we did it well. But then just the other day, right, we had this conversation about something I needed you to improve in. Yeah, but I didn't really directly do a lot of correcting. But then we had a meeting and then she came in and she was already very sorry. And I was like, it's okay, you've got this. Yeah, and to me, it was a changing moment compared to last time when she sits on the sofa. It's like, I will not change. Yeah, so I noticed a distinct difference. I noticed that if you just relax as a millennial and just go, it's okay. It's just the way they process information. Just chill. I'll say this to you. You go think about it. And if they rebel, okay, go try it out. And then let them trust you that you're not an authority that's controlling. And I find they actually find their way back. And then they accept the flow much faster. Yeah. So I do think, which is why we're doing the episode next week lah. Gen Z versus millennials.
Yes, so
I hope there's a fight.
yeah, maybe the millennials will ask the Gen Z, say, basically you guys just don't want to be told what to do. Is that it?
And it's true.
Just don't like to be told.
Yeah. Yeah, lah, so just have to swallow the pill. Yeah, so I think it's normal lah. Yeah, so it's just a different way of building culture that you need to take a different approach.
Yeah. Maybe my last question is just for leaders, right? How do we build culture in a way that is not imposing? How to say? I feel like there is maybe, for example, if we are part of a community, there's a community culture, but there's also a personal like convictions or personal culture, so to speak. How do we? Is it just awareness, like, you know?
Okay, from a leadership standpoint, I feel you need to understand that sometimes there's no way around it. Make sure that you are a leader that genuinely holds space for people and for mass and isn't controlling and forcing. Doesn't do things like tell people everything what to do. You better do it, or I think if you have to threaten, if you have to manipulate, you have to control in that way, I think and you're doing that too much, then something is a little bit off. So I think be a leader that makes sure that you genuinely are holding space and you genuinely can take feedback. You are a leader that can apologize when things go wrong. But on the other hand, you are a leader that has to lead. And no matter what, when people lead, you have to lead with a point of view. You have to lead from a value system. And you have to lead with a vision and direction and a certain culture that you want to build. Let me be very real for you. We say everyone in this church, but everyone has a certain definition. Everyone serves. Everyone participates. We hold a inclusive view of humanity and community in terms of we believe in social justice. So we may not be for every minority group, but we are for every minority group because of our view of everyone is important and matters. So there's a definition, which probably we should clarify in our church one day. Yeah. So there is no way you won't make people upset when you drive the car in a certain direction with a certain dream and a certain plan and a certain system of behaviors and attitudes. Yeah. But I do think you just gotta make sure you're not leading from rules versus you're leading from a lot of values, a certain kind of values, good values, and a good worldview. So I think there will be rules, but the rules must come out of a law of love, which is how we speak it in church, right? Everything we do is about faithfulness to people, faithfulness to God. And then the rules part, I guess, change a little bit as culture changes and changes as we learn more about life and people and how to do life and people. But the anchor point is love. I think the problem is most organizations, right? The rules matter more than the values. The rigidity matters more. It's not so much culture. It's rules and SPOs and KPIs that matter versus culture. Culture is about who and the feeling in a group. And they're like intangible tangibles. They're higher level tangibles is how I would call it, versus like number 1, do this, number 2, do this, check this off. Yeah, so there's a difference between the system of culture versus the system of just rules and rules and rules and rules. So I think you can't avoid it as a leader. You have to be, the fact is not everybody's going to like what you have to offer. Yeah, it's hard. I'm finding it very hard to figure out at this point of time. Yeah.
So basically, as leaders, how rigorous should we build culture?
Recently, I said to our team, 10 years ago, if you asked us about culture, we would say be ruthless about culture because we came from a very controlling perspective. But in the past 5-7 years, that's not us already lah. But I would say we are struggling very hard to go back to being rigorous about culture. That we dare to say, sorry, this is not a customer service church. here everyone serves. Hey, no, don't treat people like that. Gossip is not acceptable. I mean, there are some things we've always done very well. But having to be rigorous about, okay, I would say rigorous would be like daring to have uncomfortable conversations. I'm not talking about scold a person and control a person, but having an uncomfortable conversation like, hey, I'm sorry, that's not okay. And I can hear where you're coming from. I know you might feel a certain way, but this is how I feel, and this is the way culture is going here. Yeah. Yeah. Just not about the religious stuff. I think for us, really, actually, it's more the relational stuff now. I think that's the difference. We're not a religious community, we're a relational community. Everything goes back to, are we harming, or are we hurting, or are we loving, or are we kind, are we understanding, compassionate, versus you're going to hell if you did this behavior or you made that mistake. Like, that's not our language anymore lah. Yeah, so I would say that's the shift.
Yep.
Culture is relational, whereas religion is rules over relationships sometimes. Yeah.
Yes, and I think this is a good place to end, to land and to end.
Okay.
Yeah, so looking forward to church. I mean, no, not church. Looking forward to gatherings, opening up, and also definitely to see everyone just like being more connected, and also seeing culture gain momentum in this community.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to next week's podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. I won't be taking that podcast. She will be taking that podcast. I'll sit there and I'll egg people.
I'm excited to hear them talk.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. We drop an episode every single week on Tuesdays.
Yes.
At 9 a.m. YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Yep. And it's going to be great. Yeah, so give us a follow, share. Like everything. It really helps us get some traction. And we'll see you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh my god, how many times have I tripped up with this word?